Man, that was ugly.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. It's the reaction episode. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for tuning in. Man, that was brutal. That was ugly. The Bruins fall to the Indiana Hoosiers at home in their inaugural Big Ten Conference game at the Rose Bowl, the home opener, the first look for Deshaun Foster to introduce the UCLA fan base at home to a new era, and they get blasted 42-13. Blasted, like absolutely waxed by a team you would have looked at the schedule preseason and probably until week one would have been favored at home in this game, and they clearly weren't and should have not been, and that is why it was accurate for Indiana to be favored by 3 points when they won by quite a bit. Man, that was a butt whooping. Could you say there was some bad luck? Can you say Indiana's much better than advertised? Yes. And also UCLA was not good and may not be good for the rest of the year if things do not change in a hurry. Like, that was alarmingly bad. To lose 42-13 in the coming weeks is one thing, but at home to Indiana, who could certainly go with the momentum they have and make a big run, that's one thing. But UCLA, goodness gracious. First offensive play, running. You know, on offense, they literally script this. And for 2 weeks after the bye, you could practically script your play against Indiana for like 2 weeks. Your first play. And they ran into each other and fumbled. Now it was a bad start. Goodness gracious. And this isn't the 2023 defense that can save their butt. I don't think the defense is terrible, but they're not going to save the offense's butt every single time. And when you drop the ball on the 10, 15-yard line after your first play, when your defense is exhausted and couldn't get off the field on third down, UCLA through 2 games has led maybe for 30 seconds, right? For 30 seconds. And that was against Indiana and Hawaii. 2 games we would have hoped as UCLA fans to have won. And, man, that was brutal. Garbers had 137 yards passing, a pick. Had a fumble. Not necessarily sure if that was his fault, but you run it. It was just, oh, gosh, brutal, horrible. The Bruins defense couldn't get off the field on third down. Indiana was 9 of 12, racked up 430 yards of offense. Curtis Rourke threw for 76% completion rate, over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Indiana ran for 123 yards. I thought if UCLA kept Indiana 150, it'd be fine. But unless their opposing quarterback throws for so many yards, it was brutal. The Bruins can't generate pressure. Akaka Malloy is expected to bring pressure with the linebackers, and that leaves the defense and the secondary isolated in man-to-man coverage. And the Bruins aren't getting there this year. They're just not getting in the backfield. They're not generating a lot of pressure, or they're getting burned. Now, this is a veteran quarterback. He was an offensive player of the year in his conference at his previous stop. This is a team that all traveled with Curt Cignetti from James Madison. Quite a few players, actually, from James Madison to Indiana. But then you look at UCLA, and dude, the running game, 96 yards, cool. But 3.7 yards a pop, much better than it was week one. But when you're getting outrushed, about 4+ yards per carry, the leading tailback was TJ Harden with 48 yards and a touchdown. And goodness gracious, how many flags? Oh my goodness. UCLA 7 for 74. Now Indiana had 14 penalties for 127 yards. Imagine if Indiana played like a legitimately clean game without penalties. This game could have been so much worse. So much worse. Every facet of the game struggled, whether it was a missed field goal. The offense couldn't literally do anything. I know they had a touchdown before the end of the half. It looked like they had a promising drive to start the third quarter. If you can bookend those things with touchdowns, maybe it's a different game. That's frustrating, and this game is alarming. It is affirming, whether it's the Locked On College Football host and Spencer McLaughlin. I know he's a cocky son of a gun sometimes, can piss us all off. But everybody, 15th place, It's all looking true. Everybody's worst fears are looking true through 3 weeks and 2 games for UCLA football, with what is considered a murderer's row coming up next at LSU, hosting Oregon, at Penn State. And now UCLA will not, I think, in any stretch of the imagination, be favored against Minnesota at home unless something changes in the next few weeks. They might not be favored for the rest of the season, let alone USC at the end of the year and Fresno State. Man, it is ugly. And I want to keep positive, and I like to keep positive, but man, that was frustrating just all around. And I know maybe it's weird to get a bye after week 1 and not be as crisp as Indiana is, even though Indiana committed basically 15 penalties. They committed 15 penalties, and they look like the team that played much cleaner football, much better football. They're the better football team tonight in this game on the fields. But UCLA, they should be able to play much better than that, but they're not. Think of how many players are returning an offense with bigger and better pieces. And now we're going to have people pointing to UCLA's dumb. They couldn't keep Chip Kelly. It's all going to go downhill. Well, man, how much are you going to blame? Are we going to blame Eric Bieniemy? That's brutal because UCLA cannot run the football, and they have similar offensive linemen, similar tailbacks, almost the same quarterback, just as much receiving options, the same starting tight ends, and they can't run the ball. They can't generate any offense. And this is probably a team I still think UCLA could have moved the ball against, and they did not. And it's glaring that there are bad decisions, near interceptions, dropped interceptions that could have made it much worse for Garbers today. And it's just frustrating. Is it the understanding of this offense? Is it the Eric Bieniemy is not the best fit for UCLA after 2 games? Was UCLA not ready for this big of a transition offensively when all they needed was a simple passing game, more run-oriented offense where they could have run it with Chip Kelly this year? And don't get me wrong, the ship was sinking with Chip Kelly. So as much as, we missed Chip Kelly, yes, they missed him. They missed him this year because the offense would be so much better. Maybe a little bit better coached up too, with what they're lacking in talent in certain areas up front. And UCLA's defensive line, right? I talked about 2 of the big things for UCLA this week. It's the offensive line, the defensive line. I think I was telling Jacob Goins about the importance of this week is the physicality in front. We'll find out about the trenches, and they failed. This team, it was just frustrating for UCLA. When an opposition goes 5 for 5 red zones into touchdowns, basically, and then UCLA goes 3 for 3 and only once in the end zone, capitalizing opportunity, minimizing your opportunity to force mistakes, and just giving the other team, oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. This was a ridiculous performance for UCLA, right? You couldn't get a single ball to Jane Wackel-Sturtevant, who took a big hit at the end of the game to get him a catch. Logan Loya had 1 catch early first half for a first down. Then you had Keegan Jones, who made 1 catch for 7 yards. Some of your best options, not even a game plan. Your best receiver, think about this. In game 1, UCLA's best rusher was Ethan Garbers. Their best receiver in this game was TJ Harden, a running back. And I'm not sure that's necessarily his strength. He had 45 yards after the catch, had 41 yards, 4 catches to lead all UCLA receivers. And yes, I know you think of the Kansas City Chiefs. They like to dink and dunk, hit the running back once in a blue moon, go with the screens. But UCLA's biggest threat on the offense is the receiving core. And thinking about Garbers completed 14 passes. UCLA as a team completed 15 passes. 6 of them were to running backs, right? 6 of them were to running backs. If you add 3 to Matsuval, you got 6 completed passes to your receiver room that has a lot of supposed talents. Oh, man. So the offense is a work in progress. They're losing battles in the offensive line. The D-line can't generate pressure, which I think the secondary, in my mind, is not terrible, but they're getting left on an island with what Ikaika Malloy has to try to do to generate pressure. And maybe I'm being too nice on the defense, but I'm sitting there and 42-13 at home is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. That's an uh-oh. Like, the worst prognostications might come true at this moment for this season. I just hope that if things can change, they can look better, they can play better, absolutely. I think hopefully this can be the worst it gets. It might be ugly in Louisiana. I might want to run around to Tiger Stadium and hide, but I'll be there cheering on the Bruins, watching them with you guys. And then against Oregon, oof, all right. But I think this team can – there's still ways for this team to get better, and their best football is most definitely ahead of them. The season is not over. It just might not come for a while with a victory unless something changed rapidly or Indiana is just a steamrolling machine that proved everybody in the Big Ten wrong. But as much as Indiana played well, UCLA just looked and fell flat, right? Decent crowd. The tarps were still up. It's just brutal. That was brutal, Ross. So that's just my initial reaction. It's just frustrating. There's going to be more grades on Monday. No grace, but more grades. And that was frustrating, all right? In this episode, we'll tell you what it's brought to you by in just a moment. All right, you guys should go check out a new college football game, Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Check it out. Download in the App Store. It's 100% free. If you use the code LOCKEDONCFB, you get a 100% free boost. You can see if you can handle the pressure of calling plays. You can see if you're in the feet and the eyes and the hands and feet of the UCLA program if you're Deshaun Foster, right? Play. Can you handle the pressure? Go play Ultimate College Football Head Coach and lead the Bruins to glory. Use the code LOCKEDONCFB for a free boost in your program because it's free wherever you play it. It's playable offline. It's 100% free. Go check it out. Download Ultimate College Football Head Coach, ultimate-cfb.com. Check out Ultimate College Football Head Coach, the game. That was ugly. I don't have many words at the moment. I want to shine positivity, but that's not where we're going at the moment. So we'll talk about it Monday. We'll build up the LSU week, and maybe basketball season can't get here soon enough. Yikes. Oof. That is not the way you want to start off the Big Ten. Oh, boy. Anyways, UCLA fans, get your hands up. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked on UCLA. Zach signing off. As always, go Bruins.